Good morning, everybody. Here we are with Kuntres Bikkur Chicago, touching a city's soul. We are, Baruch Hashem, on our last class. We have the last section, last page really, to do. And what a great schus to do such a page, which talks about such relevant things on a day like Gimel Tammuz. So I want to go back a drop just so we can follow where we're coming from. We spoke about mainly we spoke about emunah in general, and I'm being very general, but we spoke about emunah and how we have to feed and sustain it. We have to work on it. We really have to live with it in such a real way that we're able to see it and visualize it with our own eyes, and that takes work. It's not just, there's a certain sense of emunah that just comes, and like the saying, there's no, how does it go? There's no atheist in the foxhole, right? So when push comes to shove and life gets us hard, we always turn to Hashem. The question is, are we living with that same Hashem before the push comes to shove? Are we living with that concept? Are we really feeding and sustaining that in our lives? And so here we discussed how we really have to take that emunah. We have to take this idea and we have to feed it and we have to sustain it. Just like if we eat once a week, we're not quite gonna, I didn't bring it with me, but I was gonna share a book I just finished. It's called Subota. It is incredible. And at the same time, I'm going to give a heads up and a warning that it could also be slightly traumatic. I had to put it down for like a week, actually. It was very, very, very intense. But you really get to see the just atrocious, like terrible, terrible things that Yidden were put through in Soviet camps, and how this guy just, persevered. So it can be very, very intense, but one of the things that he talks about, which is relevant to our maamer here, is his resolution that he wasn't going to give in, and he actually got a bracha from the Rebbe Rashab, and he also got a bracha from the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he knew that his life was going to be very hard, and they both said to him in different ways, you can read that in the introduction of the book, that he was going to be a fighter and he was going to win. He was going to succeed, but he was going to be a fighter throughout. So he actually didn't eat for almost a week, basically. And it was Pashat miracle after miracle how he survived. And again, we're not meant to push our bodies to such an extent. And the fact that these, terrible things happened to his body and he was greatly tortured. Again, it's an incredible book, and after I got to a certain part, I couldn't put it down. So if you do want to read it, I do give you a heads up that it's very intense, but it's worth the read. And yeah, I basically finished it in a week. It was that good. So we have to feed and sustain ourselves physically, and through that we also have to feed and sustain our emunah. It's the same thing. It's not just like a given that we're take for granted. With that, we also connected it to the concept of Araya Mehemna, the idea of the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation, the actual Moshe Rabbeinu at that time, and also the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation, and how a Moshe Rabbeinu's job is to help feed and sustain us, and to help feed and sustain our emunah in that way. It was very interesting. I was, last night, I forgot what the website is called, but there's this program, yesterday at 2:30 or something, it was a global program. It was really, really powerful. And they have an ongoing 24-hour, program for bring-ins and discussions and Rebbe videos and different things that you can join and be a part of a Gimel Tammuz together with the entire Anash and the entire world. And one of the most powerful things that I heard in one of the bring-ins that was said, thank you, Barcheinu Avinu, yes. So you can check it out. So one of the most powerful things that I heard in one of the Verbrennings that were going on at some point during the programming, was how this whole concept of Raya Mehemna, that for us, as we said in the maamer here, and I said, wow, this is so relevant to our maamer, that for us, a big chunk of our lives, we primarily see the Gashmis, we see the separations, we see the Helam, we see the hiddenness. And for a Rebbe sees the revealed. He sees what creates, what makes what it is. And so that's one of the reasons why the Rebbe was able to connect so deeply to every single one of us. And there's countless stories in the program yesterday of, personal relationships with the Rebbe that, these people the Rebbe didn't really know them, but they've had the sense that the Rebbe cared about them so much, cares about them so much. And how much more so now, I think now is a beautiful time to see the power of this Raya Mehemna, even in a time when we don't necessarily see the Rebbe with our very own eyes. And this is what the maamer is talking about in a certain sense, that we have to work so hard, not so hard, I mean, in a certain sense, but we have to work towards having this level of das and seeing the Rebbe and seeing Elokus and seeing everything we learn and everything that we were given with our mind's eye, histaklos, to be able to see it and really relate to it and really bond to it. I spoke about this a while back. I think it was 2 years ago. I took on a achlata to read one of my story, the stories in that book, once a week. And it took the Rebbe from being this. I used to, I think, mostly connect to the Rebbe through Chassidus, learning the Rebbe's maamer, the Rebbe's sichos, in different parts, and to see that sensitivity, to see that bond, to see that connection through personal stories helped me with my histaklos. So again, it's something to keep in mind on such a day. And now let's finish this maamer. Let's connect. So we're talking about this level of das, that when we have histaklos, when we connect, when we bond to the concepts that we're learning, we're able to have das. It's able to affect us in a very deep way. The same way as I said in previous classes, that by talking about a tiger and by describing it and by seeing, not even seeing a video, but let's say just reading about it in a book, it's a very different level of relationship you'll have, as opposed to if I take you guys on a trip and we go together and we actually see with our very own eyes. So we have to work towards reaching that level of sight, reaching that level of appreciation, even though in a certain sense for many of these things we are actually only getting the book. So we have to work towards it, and through that we can actually hisbainin on it, we can meditate on it, we can take the time to really focus and visualize it and connect with it and bond with it. And as we spoke in previous classes, there's different stories that if you can just tell the story and that's it. And it stays as a story, and it's, wow, what an interesting story. But if we go and we chew it over, we analyze it, we discuss it, we share it with somebody else, we share it with ourselves, we say, wow, when can I apply the story? How does this story apply? What can I learn from it? Changes the whole viewpoint. So here we are on page 82. Okay, we finished off, I'm pretty sure, by the word, this is the meaning. So we're on the third paragraph on page 82. This is the meaning of trust in Hashem, the opening pasuk of this maamer. The very first thing necessary is for a person to trust in Hashem. And this trust must be expressed in action, not just in words, but in actual practice. As the pasuk states, and do good, right? So it's trust in Hashem, and the next thing we have to do is take that trust and actually put it into action. Do good in actual practice. By doing so, a person will be ensured a life of tranquility. If we really live in such a level, we live with this concept in our lives that we actually trust in Hashem, and we take those moments, we take those steps, we take those attitudes, we take those, next approaches to our lives through that trust, from that trust, we will live a very tranquil life. We'll live a very calm life. The food of faith that nourishes and sustains faith is the das that attaches a person to the subject of his thoughts and brings the matter close to him. So how do we take this? It's by having this bond, by having this relationship. Don't just leave the Chassidus in the book. Don't just leave the Chassidus in the tip of your brain. Don't just leave the Chassidus in the tip of your tongue. Chassidus needs to be permeated, and you need to be a walking, talking representative of this Chassidus. You need to be a walking, talking, living representative of this Chassidus. All Jews naturally love Torah and its mitzvahs, and rejoice and are happy to study Torah and fulfill the mitzvahs. Similarly, all Jews also naturally despise transgressions and are God-fearing. But this is all based on the intellect and the understanding of Torah. Whereas the purpose of Das is to become aware of the holiness of the Torah, the holiness invested in the Torah. So for many of us, it's very enjoyable. I recently had a discussion with somebody about how the intellectual concepts in Chassidus gives them a lot of pleasure. And it's good. That's amazing. If that's what you get pleasure out of, and as opposed to, intellectual concepts and other types of wisdom, beautiful. That said, we need to work to take it to the next level. And the next level is we need to have a das. We need to have a bond. We need to have a sweetness for the holiness of Torah. Torah isn't just, intellectual concepts that are enjoyable for the brain. Torah is holy and pure, and that holiness is there's nothing like it. There's nothing else in the world. There's no other. Even if at some point you enjoyed learning science, you enjoy learning biology, you enjoy learning chemistry, whatever, linguistics and poetry and all these things. So that can be enjoyable intellectually. Torah has the beauty of being enjoyable intellectually. Understanding concepts and really getting them is an incredible thing. That said, the purity, the holiness, the deep bond and relationship that it gives us to our creator, the creator of the world, the Eibishter himself, that's something special. One of the things that was shared, one of the programs in this barcheinovinu.com/24, 24HR, so 24 hours, was a video of a man saying how I think it was a shliach, if I understand correctly, he brought a group of students to meet the Rebbe, and one of the students actually asked the Rebbe, okay, we're here, we're in your office, and you seem to have a very nice office, you seem to have people working for you. What is it that you do? And the Rebbe responded, which is amazing how the Rebbe could, whatever, but the Rebbe responded, you see that light switch, on the wall? And the student said, yes. So the Rebbe explained that light switch is connected to a cable, which has electricity on it. And that cable, that electricity, not that specific cable, but that electricity is somehow connected to other cables, which take it all the way to downtown Brooklyn. And in downtown Brooklyn, there are other cables which it connects to. And those cables go underground all the way to the Niagara Falls. And in the Niagara Falls, there's a mill or several thousands, mills, tons of them that are running and producing the electricity. So when it's produced in its source, in the Niagara Falls, that powerful water, if anyone's ever been, I had the great schos, thanks to a Living Chassidus member who got married in Canada, and we had to take a car ride. So we actually got to see Niagara Falls both sides. So it's huge. It really gives you an appreciation of how much power water can have. Water seemingly is, so little, but it has power. And this power is creating this incredible amount of energy and electricity. And all that is being channeled straight to downtown Brooklyn, right? And in downtown Brooklyn, it then channels, it gets diminished the drop. It gets, put into a smaller vessel, so to speak, and that same energy goes into the building in 770, and that same energy goes into us even smaller one, because then it gets spread out, right, all throughout the building. And then that same energy reaches that light switch. So the Rebbe explained that every single yid is like that, has a light switch. Every single yid is connected and one with its source. This incredibly powerful lahavdil, but so to speak, Niagara Falls, way over there, the Eibishter himself. This is the Kedusha. And my job is just to walk around and show everybody where their light switch is. And all they have to do is flip the light and they have that internal bond. They have that bond with the Kedusha. So here, what we're saying is that we have to constantly remind ourselves that it's not just, we do the mitzvahs because it's the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. It also is the right thing to do. It also is the moral thing to do. We have to see it as that light switch that connects us to this powerful holiness, to Kedusha, to Or Ein Sof, to the Eibishter himself, and lights up this aspect of, it's not just intellectual, it's not just the right thing to do. It's the holy thing to do. And we have to remember that. As in the analogy mentioned above, das draws close a good matter in which the person rejoices and is happy, or arouses great fear and apprehension in a person's heart regarding an evil matter. So too, by means of das, great joy is produced by fulfilling mitzvahs. And das also arouses great fear in the person, causing him to become afraid of sin. This is what is meant by das being the food of faith. It nourishes and sustains faith. And with that, we have concluded our maamer. Huge mazel tov. What does this mean? It means that das is one of the most important components of our understanding, of our learning, of our life. We could be a checklist chassid. We could learn chitas and check it off our checklist every single day. We could say Tehillim. We could learn the Rebbe's Sichas. We could do Likutei Sichas project and watch a Rebbe video every few days or every few weeks or every few whatever. We could literally check off all of our lists. And many people in this world do. But we can't forget the Eibishter. We can't forget that this is this light switch that connects us to our source. And we are connected to the source. This isn't just a checklist. This isn't just a life of intellectual pursuits through Torah understanding and Torah learning. This is really working towards feeling the Eibishter in our world, feeling the Eibishter in our lives, really living with this. And through that, we're able to feed and sustain our viewpoint, our lifestyle, our nefesh elokis. We're able to feed and sustain our nefesh bahamas to be connected and to be able to see and have a sensitivity for the nefesh elokis, for holiness, for good things. And this is the only way we can live. Even if we do everything and check it off, it's just not doing it. We have to take the time and bond with it. We have to take the time to connect with it. We have to take the time to take everything we learn, everything we hear, everything we see, every farbrengen, and say, what does this mean to me? Many times, as I think I spoke about this in previous classes, that we go to a farbrengen and we hear something, we come back in heaven, we come back inspired and jumping on, primordial clouds, and many times also we come back, we're saying Chassidish lingo, and Or Ein Sof, and we come and we drop all these vocabulary. What does it really mean? Have you taken the time to think about it? What does this mean for me? I remember a bacher came to speak to me about shidduchim, and he was saying how he enjoys learning, and he said to me, I can't remember, I don't remember exactly how this came up, but he was trying to explain to me a concept of something that he's really having a lot of geschmack, and he was saying, the kav and the Or Ein Sof and the this and the that, and I said to him, okay, what does that mean? And he gave me this perplexed look. And Kanai, he knows a lot of Chassidus, but he was never asked, or he never asked himself, what does that actually mean? I'm glad you understand the mechanics of Or Ein Sof, and I'm glad you understand the mechanics of, the Eilamais and Chesed, Gvura, Tferes, Netzach, Yisayim, Malchus, and beautiful. But you have to have das. You have to connect with it. You have to bond with it. And that's what the Rebbe helps us do. The Rebbe is constantly, if you see, now with the 70s, I think it's called 70 for 70, this project that they make a different video on different topics. Actually, one came out, I'm pretty sure, yesterday, so you can go check it out on the GEMS website. But many times the Rebbe tells in dollars or meetings and Yechidus, and the Rebbe tells people things, and sometimes I wonder, do they actually understand what the Rebbe meant? Like, you can take it as face value, this is okay, the Rebbe said this or the Rebbe said that. But 1 second, what does that mean in my life? How am I, and here it says it itself, how am I going to do good? How am I going to take a practical action from this? Even I was reading in the Chassidus Derech about the importance of bringing people, your community, and everybody closer to the Rebbe. And before Gimel Tammuz, people actually used to come and visit, and the Rebbe would forbring. And so this particular story, at the end of the trip that they came, it was a group from Montreal, I'm pretty sure. At the end of the trip, the Rebbe wrote saying, what is Pa'il Mamish going to change after this trip? I'm glad that you got a beautiful inspiration. You enjoyed, the Farbringen on Shabbos, and you enjoyed all the speakers and da-da-da, but what's Pa'il Mamish? What's happening by Pa'il Mamish for this group of people? So we need to do that to ourselves. We need to hold ourselves accountable. What is Pa'il Mamish for me? What am I learning? What am I taking? How am I changing my, the way I approach my parents, my relationships, my family, my friends, my children? How am I a living and walking example of the Chassidus that I learn, of living, walking example of the Rebbe, living, walking example of each of the previous Rebbeim? How am I representing them in with real das, with a real understanding? And we work on it. We have to bring it out. We have to bring it with a friend. We have to discuss it with, and through that, we're able to see how these pieces actually apply. So with that, I wanted to share the huge Mazel Tov. Baruch Hashem, we finished. I hope that we can continue in good health and with only brachos. I am still hoping to be able to do the next maamer next. It would be amazing if everybody wants to. Some of the sichas in between the two maamerim are just out of this world. For sure, starting on page 96, I would definitely suggest reading it if you're able to, and I hope to be able to continue the maamer shir as Hashem onto the next maamer in this same sefer. Tomorrow we are, Mit Hashem, going to bring some more about all the concepts. We're going to go through the main topics in the maamer, pull out some very practical lessons so we can carry them and have das with them and live with them. And we will bring, and after that, we Mit Hashem continue on to the next maamer. Mazel Tov, everybody. We did it.